So there's a new tool in town, and it's making a promise that honestly sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. It claims it can act as a totally autonomous software engineer. It's called Devin.ai, and wow, it has sent a massive shockwave through the entire tech world.
And that shockwave, it all boils down to one single gigantic question. Is this it? Is this the end of the line for human software engineers? That's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. The hype, the very surprising reality, and what this all really means for the future.
All right, so let's get properly introduced. This is Devin. It's built by a company called Cognition AI. And look, this is not just another fancy autocomplete like we've seen before. No, it's being sold as the world's first true AI software engineer.
So what does that even mean? Well, it means it's designed to be an autonomous agent. You just give it a goal, a high-level one, and it's supposed to be able to plan out the whole strategy, build all the code, and get this, even debug its own mistakes, all without you ever touching the keyboard.
I mean, that sounds absolutely incredible, right? But with any of these huge tech breakthroughs, you always have to ask the same question. How much of this is a super polished demo, and how much of it is actually ready for the messy, real world?
Okay, so to really get a handle on all this hype, we first have to understand what makes Devin so different from the AI coding tools we're already using. Because this isn't just a small upgrade, it's a totally different way of thinking.
So for the past few years, right, we've been living in the world of generative AI. Think GitHub Copilot. It's basically a request-response deal. You ask it to do something, it gives you an answer. Simple. But Devin represents what we call agentic AI. It's goal-directed. You don't give it a command, you give it a mission. And it keeps its own plan and its own memory going for thousands of steps to see that mission through. It's really the difference between having a super-fast typist and having a junior engineer on your team.
But how does an agent like Devin even do that? What's actually going on inside that allows it to think and act with that much independence? Let's pop the hood.
The easiest way to think about its setup is in three parts. First, you've got the brain, which is a large language model that acts as the master planner. Then there's the dev box, which is its own little sandboxed workshop. It's got a command line, an editor, a web browser, everything it needs to actually do the work. And finally, there's the memory, which is like its notebook, helping it keep track of everything it's done so far.
Now, this is where it gets kind of weird and interesting. Engineers who are watching Devin work noticed it developing this strange new behavior they started calling context anxiety. The AI became so aware that its memory was limited, it would actually try to rush and finish its work early just so it wouldn't run out of space. It's a really fascinating glimpse of the ghost in the machine, isn't it?
All right, so now that we know how it works, let's get to the main event. How does this thing actually perform when the rubber meets the road? It is time to look at the report card. When it launched, Devin put up a mind-blowing score on a big industry benchmark called SWEBEDGE. It resolved almost 14% of real-world issues from GitHub completely on its own. Now, to put that into perspective for you, the best models before Devin were struggling to get around 5%, and that was when they were even told which files to look at. So yeah, this was a huge leap. But then came the reality check. Some independent researchers started digging into the public demos, and in one of them, they found something pretty telling. DaVinci didn't fix a bug that was already there. It actually introduced an error into the code. And then, like a hero, it swooped in and fixed the very problem it had just created. It was basically just showing off, not doing real work. And it looks like that gap between the slick demo and the messy reality continues. A study by Answer.ai gave Devin 20 real-world tasks from actual companies. The result? It only finished 3 of them. That's a 15% success rate, which, is a long, long way from being a fully autonomous teammate.
So, what is it good at? Where does it shine? Well, Devin is actually great at what we call greenfield development, building simple new things from a blank slate. And it is incredibly powerful for those super repetitive, boring tasks like code migrations. I mean, the Nubank case study showed it was 12 times more efficient at refactoring a massive old system. It's also pretty good at fixing well-defined bugs in big projects.
And then, on the flip side, you can see its limits pretty clearly. It just can't handle ambiguity. If you give it a vague bug report, it completely gets lost. It sometimes hallucinates, pretending to do things on deployment platforms. And probably the most frustrating part is that it gets stuck in these endless loops. It'll try a fix, fail a test, undo the fix, and then try the exact same thing all over again.
Okay, so if you actually wanted to use this thing, what's it going to cost you, and who else is out there building these kinds of tools? This is all about the new economy of writing code.
Devin is actually changing the game here, moving away from that flat monthly subscription we're all used to. Instead, it's priced based on how much you use it, with something they call an Agent Compute Unit, or ACU. Think of it like a utility bill. It combines the cost of the AI's thinking time, the computer it's running on, and how long you're using it. You just pay for what you use.
And the sales pitch here is pretty powerful. A task that costs Devin about $4.50 might take a human engineer who you're paying $70 an hour a full hour to do. The return on investment seems like a no-brainer. But, and this is a big but, there's a hidden cost. The cost of babysitting. If a human has to constantly watch over Devin and tell it what to do next, well, that cost advantage starts to vanish pretty quickly.
And that economic reality is why the market is already splitting into two different camps. On one side, you have these highly autonomous agents like Devin and its open-source competitor, OpenHands. And on the other side, you got tools like GitHub Copilot and Windsurf, which are all about helping the human developer inside their code editor, not replacing them. It's really a battle between delegation and collaboration.
And that brings us to the big one, the most important question of all. What does this mean for the future of the software engineer? Is the job actually going to disappear?
You know, the best way to think about Devin today is not as a replacement for anyone. It's more like a new kind of coworker, a really talented but, let's say, inconsistent intern. It can do some amazing work on certain tasks, but it needs a ton of supervision and it can get stuck really easily, which means you need a senior engineer to manage it.
And this points to a massive shift in what skills are going to matter in the future. The real value is moving up the stack. It's not going to be about who can write the cleanest line of code or who has memorized all the syntax. The future is about being able to define a problem clearly and then orchestrate a team of both humans and AIs to get it solved. And that right there is the key takeaway. Devin isn't the end of the software engineer. Far from it. It's actually the beginning of something new, the era of the software architect, a time where the most important skill isn't just writing code, but designing systems and orchestrating all kinds of intelligence, whether it's human or artificial.
Which leaves us with one final thought. As these tools get better and better, is it possible that the single most valuable professional skill, not just in tech, but in every field, will be the ability to effectively manage and orchestrate intelligence? That's a pretty profound question about where we're all headed.